If there is one organ in your body that works for you all the time, without rest, without applause, and almost without complaining, it is the kidney. And the most dangerous part is exactly that. It suffers in silence. A lot of people spend their whole lives without thinking about their kidneys. They think about the heart when it starts racing. They think about the stomach when it burns. They think about the back when pain locks the body. But the kidneys are discreet. They usually do not warn early, and in many cases, when real symptoms appear, the problem has already been developing for years. That is why I want to talk to you today about something simple, practical, and much more important than it seems: what you drink every day. Because when the subject is protecting your kidneys, beverages enter the story in a direct, immediate, and silent way.
I am EDU Rodriguez, a pharmacist, biochemist, and health educator. And today I want to show you, in a clear way and without exaggeration, which drinks actually make the most sense when we think about long-term kidney health. Not as a miracle, not as a magical cleanse, not as a cure promise, but as part of an intelligent routine that may spare your kidneys from unnecessary wear over the years. Before I talk about those drinks, I need to remind you of something very important. Kidneys are not just filters. Many people think of them as strainers that clean the blood, and that is all. But they do much more than that. They help control the body's fluid balance, participate in sodium, potassium, and mineral regulation, influence blood pressure, help activate vitamin D, take part in acid-base balance, and eliminate waste that, if allowed to accumulate, can make the whole body sick. In other words, kidneys are not there only to filter. They are regulating life all the time. The problem is that after 40, the body does not respond exactly the way it used to. There is a natural decline in kidney function with aging. That is physiological. What turns this natural aging into a problem is when it gets added to years of dehydration, too many sugary drinks, too much alcohol, poorly controlled blood pressure, unstable blood sugar, silent inflammation, and bad choices repeated day after day. And that is exactly where what you drink starts making a very big difference. Liquids reach the bloodstream very quickly, much faster than solid foods, which need to be digested more slowly. When you drink something, your kidneys have to respond almost immediately to that impact. They deal with volume, concentration, electrolytes, pressure, and osmolarity. So unlike food, which enters the story more gradually, beverages knock on the kidney's door with much more speed. If the response your kidneys need to make is calm, balanced, and repeated in a healthy way over the years, that protects. If that response is aggressive, inflammatory, and repeated every day, that wears them down. That is why, before talking about the best choices, I want to break a myth that does a lot of damage. There is no miracle drink for the kidneys. None. No drink by itself cleans the kidneys, detoxes the kidneys, or heals the kidneys. That does not exist in serious medicine. What exists is pattern. What exists is repeated daily choices that reduce risk. That is what preserves function. That is what changes long-term outcomes. So now I want to show you the 3 drinks that make the most sense when we look at the evidence responsibly. The first one, and by far the most important of all, is water. It may sound too obvious. It may sound too simple. But precisely because it sounds simple, many people underestimate it. Water is the absolute foundation of kidney health. There is nothing above it when we talk about protecting the kidneys. When you are well hydrated, blood circulates more smoothly, waste products stay less concentrated, urine tends to be less aggressive to the urinary tract, and the kidneys work in a much less hostile environment. It is as if you allow the whole system to function with less friction. Good hydration helps reduce the concentration of urea, creatinine, and other substances the kidneys need to eliminate. It also helps lower the risk of kidney stones, those painful crystals that form more easily when urine is too concentrated. And this point matters a lot, because many people spend years drinking too little water and only realize the price of that when they experience kidney stone pain, which is one of the most intense pains a human being can feel. Now I need to be responsible here. There is no magic number of liters that works for everyone. Water needs change according to body size, climate, physical activity, food choices, age, and certain health conditions. Some people need more, some need less. And in people with heart failure, advanced kidney disease, or certain medications, fluid intake needs to be individualized. So what do I usually teach in a practical way? For most healthy adults, paying attention to thirst, observing urine color, and keeping water intake spread through the day is usually much smarter than memorizing a fixed number and forcing water down. Very dark urine often means you are drinking too little. Urine that is constantly completely clear may, in some situations, suggest excess. In most cases, the goal is balance. The second drink that surprises many people is coffee. Yes, coffee. For a long time, it was treated almost like an enemy of the kidneys, the heart, blood pressure, everything. But modern science became more careful and started showing a more balanced picture. In several observational studies, moderate coffee intake has been associated with better kidney outcomes in some populations. And I want to highlight two words here: moderate intake. Coffee contains interesting bioactive compounds, especially polyphenol, that help fight oxidative stress and inflammation. These compounds may protect the endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels, including the tiny vessels that reach the kidneys. On top of that, in some people, coffee has been associated with better insulin sensitivity. And that matters a lot, because poor glucose control and insulin resistance are among the great silent enemies of kidney health. Now comes the most important part of this conversation. Coffee is not a miracle, and excess does not protect. The possible benefit appears when intake is moderate, not excessive, and preferably not turned into a dessert loaded with sugar. Because it makes no sense to take a drink that may have an interesting role and turn it into a blood sugar bomb with spoon after spoon of sugar. Coffee is also not ideal for everyone. People with arrhythmias, important anxiety, very uncontrolled hypertension, major insomnia, or strong sensitivity to caffeine need to look at this individually. In some people, coffee fits very well. In others, it needs adjustment. In others, it may be better to reduce a lot or even avoid it. But what I want you to keep in mind is this: coffee has moved away from that old role of automatic fill-in. When used wisely, it can absolutely be part of a more kidney-friendly lifestyle, especially when it replaces sugary drinks, sodas, and energy drinks. The third drink worth paying attention to is water with lemon, or more precisely, water associated with natural sources of citrate. And here I need to be very careful with my words, so I do not promise more than the science really shows. Lemon water does not regenerate the kidneys, does not magically improve filtration, and does not cleanse the body as if it were some internal wash. Its role is more specific and more modest, but still very interesting. Lemon helps increase urinary citrate, and citrate is an important protective factor against some types of kidney stones, especially calcium stones. In simple language, it helps make it harder for salts to crystallize in the urine. And that is valuable for people who have a tendency towards stones or who have been through that problem before. On top of that, for many people, adding lemon to water improves hydration adherence. They simply drink more water because they like it better. And that alone is already a gain. Because at the end of the day, the best liquid for the kidneys is still water. Lemon comes in as support, not as the main character. The simplest way to use this is often adding the juice of half a lemon to a large glass of water once or twice a day, depending on individual tolerance. But people with strong gastritis, significant reflux, stomach sensitivity, or certain limitations need to observe how their body responds. And anyone with advanced kidney disease needs to speak with their doctor before making any significant change in fluid intake. Now I want to tell you about something many people ignore. Protecting the kidneys is not only about choosing the right drinks. It is also, and mainly, about avoiding the wrong ones. And here we meet the greatest silent saboteurs of kidney health: soda, sugary drinks, processed juices, energy drinks, too much alcohol, and this whole inflammatory liquid pattern that many people carry for years as if it were normal. These beverages overload the body in many ways. They worsen blood sugar, increase insulin resistance, favor abdominal obesity, inflame blood vessels, disturb blood pressure, disrupt mineral balance, and create a much more aggressive environment for the kidneys. And the issue is not one soda at a party or one occasional drink. The issue is repetition. The issue is the daily cup, the automatic habit, the pattern that keeps accumulating over the years. That is why I often say that protecting the kidneys does not require radicalism. It requires clarity. It requires stopping the search for miracle drinks and starting to respect the basics with consistency. water in a proper amount, coffee in moderation when it fits you well, lemon water in specific situations, and much less space for sugary and ultra-processed beverages. Other drinks may also have a place when used with common sense, like some lighter teas, coconut water on specific occasions, or dairy-based drinks in people without certain restrictions. But none of them surpasses the simplicity of water as the foundation, and none of them compensates for too many harmful drinks. I like to think that every glass counts. It seems small, but it counts. What you drink today does not disappear without leaving a trace. It gets added to what you drink tomorrow, next week, next year. And that is how kidney health is either preserved or worn down in silence. So I want to leave you with a very honest reflection. What has taken up more space in your glass over the last few years? Water or liquid sugar? Protection or overload? Care or neglect? Because your kidneys keep working for you every single day, asking for almost nothing in return, never stopping, never resting, and never complaining early. And maybe one of the smartest ways to thank them is simply to pay closer attention to what you choose to drink. If this content made sense to you, subscribe to EDU Health Tips. And tell me in the comments, which of these 3 drinks do you already use most in your routine, and which drink do you know you still need to reduce to better protect your kidneys?